After a good start to the season for Tobias Harris, we were having conversations. Is Nick Nurse bringing out the best in Toby? Contract year, Tobias Harris. He's playing really good basketball. Since a solid start to the season, though, his game is flatline. What he did last night against the Washington Wizards, not good at all. So coming up on today's show, is it finally time to trade Tobias Harris, who I've always said is a good player who's overpaid? Stay tuned for that, but first, I got on the phone, I hit up Adam Silver, and I worked out a deal. Every like that we get on today's show is one all-star vote for Tyrese Maxey, otherwise known as Philadelphia's son. So, if you want Maxey to be all-star bound, hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. So let's have a conversation here about Tobias Harris. The deal that Elton Brand signed him to has ended up being very prohibitive for Philadelphia from a contractual sense because he's making too much money for the player that he is, but also from a basketball sense because he has held this team back with how much he is getting paid. Now you look at the early numbers here for Toby. They don't look all that bad from a points per game, rebounds per game, and field goal percentage standpoint. He's averaging 17.5 points a night, 6+ rebounds. He's shooting 51% from the floor. All of those numbers are pretty solid. But I've always kind of thought this about Tobias Harris is that the stats are empty. Him going scoreless in the second half against the Boston Celtics on Friday night is inexcusable when you're without Tyrese Maxey as well as Joel Embiid. And in big games, he has not played all that well. Another issue with the numbers that we just showed you is that Harris is shooting less than 32% from three-point range. That is his worst mark from downtown since 2013-2014 with the Orlando Magic. That, ladies and gentlemen, was a decade ago. That's when Harris first came into the league. He was a little bit more raw at that point coming out of his college days with Tennessee, and he is consistently gotten better as a basketball player. Credit to him. This is a guy who's always available. He's never injured, and he deserves credit for that, as well as his parents and his family members for good genes, but he puts the work in. He keeps himself healthy, but the fact that his numbers are declining here, you can tell that he's pressing a little bit. And he's always pressed a little bit because Philadelphia is a pressure cooker. But I think that he's starting to press here because this is a contract year. And it's just crazy that his three-point numbers are down that much. And after that strong start to the year, where I liked what I was seeing, he was aggressive. He has cooled off significantly. And there's really no excuse for it. Because when James Harden was here last year and for the half season prior, Toby was basically relegated to the fourth offensive option. Now this year, he's elevated to the third offensive option. So he is getting more opportunities to put the biscuit in the basket and to provide for this team offensively. And he has a better coach right now in Nick Nurse as compared to Glenn Rivers. You look at his first 10 games to his last 10 games. And the splits here from the first 10 to the last 10 are pretty drastic. First 10 games of the year, he's averaging almost 20 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, 57.5% from the deck, 35.5% from three-point range, plus minus of plus 6.9. Very nice. Last 10, though, a tick under 15 points per game, 5.5 rebounds. Look how low the field goal numbers have gotten. He's gone down 13 percentage points from his overall field goal mark. And then three-point range, he's gone down from 35 to 28. So for the season, he's around 50%. But over the last 10 games, not been good at all. And it's not like he's dealing with some injury right now. He has been a little bit better at attacking the rim. And that's something that I like to see a little bit more of, is him just using his big body to attack a mismatch and try to get to the 10. But everywhere else, mid-range, long range, he's been worse in those categories. And I just think that Tobias Harris is way too inconsistent for this team and to be this team's third option. In a playoff series, great teams have a semblance of players who are going to step up throughout the course of that entire playoff run. And Tobias Harris in a big series is going to have to play meaningful minutes, take meaningful shots, and hit critical baskets for this team to be successful against the Boston Celtics, against the Milwaukee Bucks, some of the top teams in the East who you will have to play in the second round. I don't care what you do in the first round against the Brooklyn Nets. It's all good and all, but I need you to show up when it matters. Harris has really struggled to do that. And I think there's been too many stretches where he just disappears on the offensive end of the floor. And he's not good enough on the defensive end to really make up for it. Last year, second round. Him having to be the primary defender at times to guard Jason Tatum, you know that Tatum is just salivating at the thought of that matchup because he can take advantage of Harris as Harris being the primary defender of a Jason Tatum. So do you trust Tobias come playoff time? I don't, because everything that we've seen in his history tells us that he kind of gets a little tight and doesn't play that loose, free style of basketball. He thinks a little bit too much, and that's why I've always kind of said, he's a good stats, mediocre to bad team player. I'm not sure he's a championship level piece that he has to be on this team or any other team as a 2 or a 3rd option. So does Tobias Harris need to be traded? If yes, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. See how many people think that he should get dealt. If not, I want you to comment why down in the comment section. We always love to hear from you and get your feedback. Coming up next here on the show, how do the advanced numbers for Tobias Harris look? I told you, we give you the best Sixers analysis right here on YouTube. And should the Sixers be starting Nicholas Batum? Stay tuned for that. But first, tune in to Factor. 50% off using the code NBAChat50. This holiday season, we are all so busy. We don't often have times to go out to the grocery store, let alone do a lot of meal prepping and cooking every single night. That's where Factor can really save you. That's where it saved me. You might be looking for nutritious, convenient meals to keep you energized on some of these really hectic days during the holiday season. Factor is America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service, and they can help you fuel up fast for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You're going to save time, you're going to eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle, all while tackling all of your holiday to-dos. Skip the stress of meal prepping over the holidays with Factor. They have 35-plus weekly flavor-packed, fresh, never frozen meals that support a healthy lifestyle, and they can meet your meal preferences, and everything is delivered right to your door, and everything is ready in about 2+ minutes. And with Factor, you can be rest assured you're making a sustainable choice this December. Get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. It is 50% off. A great deal here for all of you at factormeals.com/NBAchat50. That link is down below in the comment section and in the description of this video. So we dive into some of the numbers here, the advanced numbers for Tobias Harris. How is he faring in a couple of these statistical categories? 3-point shooting first. Corner threes, 25%. 5th percentile. Non-corner threes, 35%. 41st percentile. On all threes, 32%. That is a 24th percentile. Otherwise known, not very good. And the Sixers have been considerably worse when Tobias Harris has been on the court. He's taken some offensive opportunities away from a Maxey and an Embiid, maybe a DeAnthony Melton. Now that Kelly Oubre Jr. is back, he's taken some shots and opportunities away from him because, look, Tobias Harris has earned the right to be a steady contributor for a team, and he's earned the right to get opportunities. He's been a solid and reliable player for a really long time. And then more so, some of these advanced stats here. With Tobias Harris, the Sixers have played almost 1,400 possessions, 1,391 of them. And without him, you can see 427 possessions. Again, he's durable. He plays a lot. That's great. But the Sixers have been a better team without him as compared to with him. With him, point differential, plus 4.7. Without him, plus 12.1. Obviously, the sample size is lower, but still, points per 100 possessions, a tad higher without him. Points per 100 possessions allowed. Sixers are giving up a lot more points when Harris is on the floor as compared to him sitting on the bench. And then you look at the opposing turnover percentage and the opposing effective field goal percentage, these numbers pretty drastic with and without Tobias Harris. And what all of these stats pretty much mean, to kind of summarize the point here, is that the Sixers score more points and they play better defense when Harris is on the bench. So if you could find a way to swap him for an OG Anunoby or another two-way player who demands the basketball a little bit less, could be a little bit more efficient, but then helps you on the defensive end, I think that the Sixers can figure things out on the offensive end of the floor. And I also think that Nick Nurse has to start thinking about this. Could the Sixers be better off in starting Nicholas Batum? The Sixers team has been really good with Batum on the floor, and Batum has been a starter for a really long time in this league. When he was playing with the Los Angeles Clippers alongside Kawhi Leonard, as well as Paul George, he was one of their starting players in that front court. And with Batum on the court, this Sixers team, pretty damn good. The higher that you get on these percentiles, the better that you are. So with Batum on the court, point differential is at plus 12.4. That's 95th percentile. Points per 100 possessions, Sixers, 134.5 points, 100th percentile. And then the turnover percentage, 11.3, 97th percentile. I want to see Batum start to get some more run, but when you're paying Harris this much money, it's hard to put him in off the bench, or it's hard to not play him at all. The main takeaway here for Nick Nurse, Philadelphia, and we know that Daryl Morey has access to these analytics, right? Because he's an analytical kind of guy. When Batum is on the floor playing for the Sixers team, the Sixers statistically, and Daryl Morey, again, he knows this because he's looking at the numbers, they play at an elite level, particularly on the offensive end. And I think that Batum might be a better fit as an off-ball player. And I know that in recent weeks I've kind of talked about this, and I've used this term of being a lower maintenance offensive player, but it's a term that I like to use because the Sixers team is trying to move forward and has moved forward, in my opinion, in a positive way without James Harden. James Harden, because of his usage rate, how much he handles the basketball, is a high-maintenance type of offensive player. Tobias Harris needs to be incorporated in the offense for him to kind of find his groove, his confidence, and his shot. Batum, on the other hand, you camp him out in the corner, you put him around the wing, or from straight away at the top of the key. He could play a little bit down low. He's fine with playing off ball, whereas sometimes Tobias Harris looks a little bit disjointed and uncomfortable having to play off ball. So my take here, I would rather trade Tobias Harris than a package where you include Nicholas Batum, Covington, Marcus Morris. It's a little bit weird that Morris is starting to get more minutes than Robert Covington because I think Covington gives you good length as well as wing defense, but I think trading away Batum would be a bad mistake. You know, the thought process that Philadelphia had in signing Al Horford of him being a good fit next to Embiid, it was a disaster, right? Shout out Anna Horford. But Nicholas Batum has kind of been that big that has fit alongside Joel Embiid that he's really been missing. So who should start? This might be a controversial topic and a controversial question, but I think that Batum could really help out this basketball team. Type their initials here, Toby or Batum. Why teams would trade for Tobias Harris? A couple of reasons here. He's on a large expiring contract at $39 million. A selling or rebuilding team, I think, could be interested, especially attached to some picks here. And with Toby, you know, he's on that expiring contract, so that allows the team to just move off of that money and then get rid of some of the pieces that they might be paying a lot of money to. So then they go into free agency, or they're able to scrap everything down and start their rebuild without a lot of players being attached to their salary cap. Potential trade options if the Sixers were to trade Tobias Harris, you're looking at a Pascal Siakam. Keep in mind that at the NBA level, you have to match contracts here. So all of these contracts would be able to match Harris or be in the neighborhood of it. I know some Sixers fans have become a little bit enamored with Lauri Markkanen. The improvements that he's made with the Utah Jazz have been really, really impressive. I don't love a Kyle Kuzma because I think he's a low-efficient offensive player. And I'm out on Zach LaVine. He's also going to be injured for the next several weeks, leading us up into the NBA trade deadline. So I think it's time, Daryl Morey, with Tobias Harris on this expiring deal, with him costing you in a basketball sense, but also fiscally, financially, I think that Morey has to try to find a good trade package for him this season. If you want to interact with me on social media, by the way, you can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Chase_Senior. And don't forget to subscribe to Philadelphia 76ers Now. Producer Chip has been crushing it, helping out with the content here. We hope that you've all been enjoying it. And if you have, keep it locked here because we're going to continue to keep it moving.